Did you know that researchers spend months writing an article that's going to be read by 10 or 20 people? You probably know that. Most likely you are a researcher yourself. Well, let's break the logic of this though. I mean, okay, you have your article, and let's say 20 people end up reading it, and this is work of months, sometimes even a year. But that's not where the problem is. Why then researchers, when creating slides for a presentation that will directly impact 100 people, 200 people, they just take a couple of days doing it? Seriously, why? Well, that's because your work can take many forms, and only one of those forms is the written form, which is your article. And a completely different exercise is creating slides for a presentation. So just bear in mind, your presentation is not your paper, and it shouldn't be treated as such. So welcome back to Design for Scientists, and today we're going to be looking at a slide makeover from a real example of a friend of ours, and he went to a conference and presented this for more than 300 people. And you're going to see how you can significantly improve the slide by just using a few design principles. Now, I want you guys to imagine that you were at that conference and this slide came up. You are instantly overwhelmed. You don't even know where to look at. And just for your information, what he wanted to say here were actually 2 points. One is about the so-called weak test, and the other about the so-called strong test. So let's just see what we can improve here. The first thing that we have to do always is leaving empty space close to the edges. Why? Well, there are many reasons. One of the reasons is if you have people in the back of the room, they won't be able to see the bottom part of the slide, depending on the design of the room. Also, there are a few projectors that will misalign your content, so you have to be prepared for that. What you can do is, for example, if you use PowerPoint, you just go and check the box for grid lines. You should get some grid lines like this, but the important ones are the outer ones. So just leave all the content inside this blue margin. And you should have something like this. It's much cleaner, much nicer, and you won't run at any problems. Now, what's calling the most attention here? Well, probably the title. And that's one good thing to talk about the title, is that it's written in a conclusion form. And this way, even though you don't understand anything that's going on, you're going to be able to read it and understand the main point of the slide. But in terms of design, it can be improved. You can increase readability by just writing in a standard form, and you can take out that weird background that serves no purpose. Now, we want to avoid busy slides, and that's obvious, but it's easier said than done. And a great tip that I have for you guys is, if you're not going to talk about it, just eliminate from your slide. And in this case, he wasn't going to talk about all of this stuff. So just remove them, and that's okay. Now, about data, you shouldn't be overdoing it. And here, he wasn't going to talk about any of the data in the bottom. And the graphs are enough for him to make the points that he wants to make. So just remove it. Next, you remember that I told you that he wanted to make a point about the weak test and the so-called strong test, right? So why not split them and explain one by one? Again, simplicity carried to an extreme becomes elegance. So here, what you can do is just make the first point. Leave it blank there. You can even make an extra point to highlight something about these graphs. And then you should execute the design principles of vertical bars graphs. Pretty much like we learned in the last class. So now, all this clogged information can turn into a beautiful slide. And when you're ready to talk about the next point, you can shift everybody's attention to the other point that you want to make by just creating this simple transparent effect. And that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the content. You can always submit your slides for us to analyze like this. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram. I'll see you next time.